So Together AI is a digital companion for families to help them navigate the growing up process. How it works is basically the child gets a digital friend that teaches them about emotional intelligence, how to develop resilience, and understanding their, day to day, so general stresses. And then it facilitates a conversation between the parent and the child with tools and techniques from leading healthcare professionals. How we really acquired users was we looked at who was going to be the end user that we needed to acquire digitally. For us, we target parents, and the parent then onboards the child, who's the end user. So it's a little different to more of a traditional B2C approach. And how we did that was we found, instead of traditional stuff, what most startups do is they try and educate the market on what their brand is, their product is, their solution, whatnot. We went straight to content creators that looked like our users, approached them to create content for us, and repurpose said content into our advertising channel to give us an overall lower CPI across all platforms. But as with everything's moving towards short form video based content, we specialized more in that sort of realm rather than, say, your traditional areas of like blogs or just general podcasts and bits and pieces.
So, I mean, there's a lot of chatter about influencers versus macro influencers. Like, how did you find these guys to create the content?
Yeah, so really just getting your hands dirty. So looking for influencers on TikTok around different hashtags, looking for influencers on YouTube. Macro's great, but when you're a small startup, micro's the best. You can create that instant relationship. You generate a long-term rapport, so you can actually generate consistent low-cost content for your advertising and other social platform channels. Realistically, it's about building those strong tie connections and then re-educating other networks with those strong tie connections. And what I mean by that is basically, if you can find individuals that look like your user, they'll generally have an audience that you'd want to target as well. So, if you're getting a TikTok mum, content creator, or user-generated content, they'll often have additional communities of similar individuals, similar peers in their community. So yeah, I'd probably say just sort of focus on more of a long tail connection rather than anything else. You don't want to. You can go for sort of quick hacks and growth tactics such as like, scraping competitors' followers and creating artificial social media engagement. But realistically, it's about ensuring that you have that connection with those users for your early stage. We got like 20,000 users within a couple of months on nothing for our wait list, which is great. And then it took us about a year to transition into releasing the app with back and forth, user feedback, user interviews, and then getting the acquisition of 20k installs was pretty straightforward because we'd had built up these relationships with these micro influencers and micro creators, and then obviously got their network as well as repurposed said content into our advertising channels.
Wow. So the main distribution channel was TikTok, and then you used that content, the best performing, I presume, on the other platforms as well.
Oh, of course. When it comes to repurposing content, obviously you need to, do simple technical requirements of like removing watermarks and so forth. But every other major social media channel is following short form video content. Now, it doesn't really matter about the production value because people prefer a more authentic connection. And especially when dealing with sort of micro influencers, you get that. Yeah.
What about all the money I spent today on this production?
Sorry, brother. Polished is great. Unfortunately, it just depends on really your user and what they're used to interacting with. Our users were, mums and dads struggling to connect with their children, and they would often be, watching TikTok with their kids, or they might be on Snapchat, or they might be looking at Instagram Reels, or they might be looking at Facebook Reels. So that type of content doesn't necessarily need to be polished. However, if we're looking at something that has maybe more of a B2B aspect, you might do short-form video that's a little bit more polished, but you'll throw that onto LinkedIn or you'll repurpose that into Twitter. You just have to look at like, where does your audience live online?